What's up guys, this is Kephas, I am legally blind, and today we're going to talk about people. It goes without saying, whether you're visually impaired or not, you will encounter all different types of people. But the key difference is that when you're visually impaired, people simply can't relate to you. They just don't understand what it's like to be visually impaired. Let me put it this way. Getting a person with good eyesight to understand what it's like to be visually impaired is as difficult as getting a person that's visually impaired to understand what it's like to have good eyesight. Look, if you put an eye patch over one of your eyes and then put a wet napkin over your other eye, well, you'd look like an idiot, so don't do that. You see, it's just not easy for me to properly put into words what it's like to be visually impaired. As a result, I come across all different types of people who react to me in many different types of ways. So let's just take it from the top. Folks tend to get a little overly cautious around visually impaired people, especially if they've just met or they're a new acquaintance. Some are more direct about it. They're the ones that are always trying to help you, trying to make sure that you're not lost, trying to make sure that you don't fall. It's as if they've worked out in their minds that you're completely helpless and you're in constant need of assistance. And while being helpful is very much appreciated, it can also be downright annoying, because we're not helpless, and if we need help, we will ask, even if we really don't want to. And then you have the overly sensitive. These are the people that always seem to be walking on eggshells when they're around you. They're the ones who are afraid to say things like, "Did you see that?" When you become so afraid that you're going to offend me, you're making both of us uncomfortable. And like I always say, being politically correct is retarded. So stop it. The last thing I want is for you to feel uncomfortable when you're around me. So don't. Treat me like you treat everyone else. Unless you're a jerk, in which case, stay the heck away from me. Speaking of jerks, let's not forget the hardliners. We all deal with these types of people. They're the overly opinionated, know-it-all loudmouths. They are the worst. They have all the answers, and even though they may not be visually impaired themselves, they know an awful lot about it, and they're going to let you know. These so-called experts seem to treat you as if you're a problem that needs to be solved. They're always quick to give you their opinion even when you never asked for it. And they'll actually say things like, being visually impaired isn't that big of a deal, or stop using that as a crutch. And then they'll start telling you some lame story about how someone they know had a disability and still went on to do great things, and close it out with, "So what's your excuse?" These stories mean nothing to me, and I don't need an excuse. So stop telling me the story about your best friend's uncle's buddy Jimmy, who was born without testicles, became an astronaut, and went and landed on the moon. I don't care. Just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you're not still an individual, and every individual has to figure out their own path and fulfill their own destinies, and the last thing they want is somebody telling them what to do. So what works out for some doesn't always work out for others, and that's just the bottom line. The sympathizers are pretty much the exact opposite of the hardliners. Where the hardliners would tend to downplay your circumstances, the sympathizers tend to overstate them. I once had someone say this to me, and I cannot make this up. They actually said, "I don't think you understand how visually impaired you are." I couldn't believe it. These people usually mean well, but in the end they seem to be more hung up on your disability than you are, and they always seem to remind you of the things that you can't do. Yeah, I may not be able to drive a car or read the small print, but I think I get around pretty well. I can cook, I can clean, I can even sew. I practice kung fu, I play video games, I play the guitar, and I love watching movies. I've even been through college. Twice. So I'm pretty happy with my life. And while I appreciate your good intentions, I don't need your pity. So don't assume that my life is bad just because I have bad eyesight. Because in the end, you're probably giving it more attention than I am. You would be surprised at how many people feel the need to make a joke at my expense. And I'm alright with this, because I've shared a lot of laughs with people. I mean, there's so much that you can make fun of, and it provides a good opportunity to pull a lot of pranks on people, or at the very least, make them feel really bad. I've adopted the philosophy that if you can't laugh at it, then you're taking it way too seriously. But then you have these jokers, these comedians, that come across with these flippant remarks and these little jokes, and they think they're so funny. They say things like, "Alright, everybody in the car, Kef's driving," Hey, look at me, I'm Kephas. Oh, come on, Keph, what are you, blind? Hey, Keph, did you see that hot chick across the street? Just kidding, that's a dude. And what amazes me is that these people really think they're funny, and they think they're the first one to make these kinds of jokes. Believe me, I've heard millions of these by now, and they're never funny, they're never clever, and they're never original. On second thought, did I call them comedians? I'm sorry, I think I meant to say Moral of the story? Most people with disabilities just want to get on with their lives and be treated like everyone else. We're not looking to be taken care of. We're not a problem that needs to be solved. We don't want your pity, and for God's sakes, don't flippantly make fun of us. Remember, some of us know Kung Fu. And that's just a small glimpse into the life of the legally blind. This is Kephas. Until next time.